Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Welcome to my channel P48. My name is Sham, and in this channel I talk about project management, career tips in project management, resume rebranding, and many other interesting topics. So if you're new to my channel, please do subscribe for some interesting value add content. In this today's video, I'll be talking about Agile project management. By the end of this video, you will understand the difference between being agile and doing agile. So without wasting time, let's get started. So before we jump in and understand the agile project management, let's go back into the history and see where it all started. I'm sure you must have already heard of this term called lean. And under this umbrella of lean, you have concepts like Six Sigma, Kaizen, Gamba, and the original Kanban. It all started in 1940s in Japan, was later spread over US, and companies like Toyota, Motorola, and General Electric started implementing Six Sigma, and they achieved amazing results. At that time, these concepts were used in manufacturing and automobile industry, and later when people started working in software development, a new concept that was emerged from the lean umbrella was agile. That brought in some of the concepts from lean, which were Kanban, which got evolved in software development, along with Kanban, few other new methods like Scrum, pair programming, extreme programming, DSDM, test driven development, feature driven development were introduced. And from 90s to 2000s until 2010, Agile had become a household name, and people started using all these methods and frameworks in their software development process. And in 2010 onwards, they realized that there has to be a method in which we can scale this Agile model. Then came the scaled frameworks like LESS, which is large scale Scrum, SAFe, that is Scaled Agile Framework, and not so popular Disciplined Agile Delivery. At this moment, when I'm making this video in 2022, SAFe is considered as one of the popular frameworks which is being used by a lot of companies to scale the Agile. So let us take a step back and see how this Agile came into picture and learn a little bit about the history of Agile. So in 2001, in February month, a group of people headed by Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, they met in a ski resort in Utah, United States of America. So they spent some time in brainstorming and discussing the various methods that are under the Agile framework. These people were from the different practices like Scrum, pair programming, DSDM, Crystal, test driven development, feature driven development. They all got together and they tried to find out different ways in which you can add value when you deliver a software. And these discussions happened for a couple of days, and the things that were discussed were the values that you're going to add when you develop the software, the principles that you're going to use while developing the software, and some of the practices, and last but not the least, the tools that you're going to use. And that is when the manifesto for agile development was born. And this manifesto was nothing but a set of rules and 12 principles that can be used as an alternative for the documentation driven and heavyweight software development processes that used to be followed. So there were four key points that were brought up, and these remain to be the foundation of this manifesto. Number one, giving more importance to the individuals and interactions over the processes and tools. It makes sense, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the individuals who are developing the software, and the interactions are making that software successful. And a tool or a process will not really matter. A working software over comprehensive documentation, because your customer would be happy if he or she sees a software which is in a workable condition or in a usable condition. The customer is not interested to read any documentation literature. The third important thing, instead of negotiating with the scope of the work, try to collaborate with the customer, because collaboration will bring in transparency and transparency will bring in customer satisfaction. And the last but not the least, responding to the change over following a plan. In the early SDLC and the waterfall methods that were used for software development, there was a plan and it had to be followed. And any change asked by the customer had to go through a revised plan. But instead, the manifesto for agile software development encourages people to respond to that change and embrace the change that the customer is asking. And with this manifesto as the foundation, the methods like Scrum, Kanban, and all the other methods that you are now going to learn were born. I'll be putting a link in the description down below. Please check out this website for Manifesto for Agile Development. Even after 20 plus years, this still remains updated and relevant. All the training curriculum that you see in the market, all the certifications that you see in the market that are related to Agile, they are built upon this manifesto. So before you start taking up any training or any formal certification, or before starting your work in Agile, I would advise you to go through the manifesto and read about it. Now, in this video, I'll be talking about two key concepts that are used in Agile software development, or methods I can say, that is Scrum and Kanban. So let's start with the Scrum. So for us to start with the Scrum, we need to understand how the Scrum is structured, how it is being built, right? So the foundation of the Scrum is empiricism. Empiricism means working in a fact-based, experience-based, evidence-based manner. The Scrum implements an empirical process where the progress is based on the observations of reality. It will not follow any fictitious plan. Scrum also places a great emphasis on the mindset and the cultural shift, because you can apply a Scrum methodology only if your organization or the team that you perform or the team that is working with you has the mindset. Upon this foundation of empiricism, there are three pillars on which the Scrum is standing. The first pillar, the transparency. The transparency means presenting the facts as is. All the people who are involved, the customer, the individual contributor, and every person who is responsible for the delivery of the product has to be transparent. And this also goes in hand with the Scrum values that you see, that is being courageous to be transparent and also focused to be transparent. You do the work with the committed time and the committed resources and the committed scope. And of course, when you are transparent, it doesn't come without being respectful of others and without being open. So transparency comes across as one of the strongest pillar, because it is imbibed with the Scrum values that you see, like courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Now moving on to the next pillar, the inspection. When I say inspection, it is not a kind of an inspection which is being done by an inspector or an auditor, but it's the inspection that is done by each and every person in the Scrum team. The inspection can be done for the product, for the processes, for the people, in order to ensure that the practices are followed for the continuous improvement. For example, if a team openly shows up, or if the team is transparent to talk about the product at the end of the sprint and give a demonstration to the client, and if the client inspects that product and provides its feedback, then the team should be able to adapt that feedback and embrace that change. And there comes our last pillar, that is adaptation. Like I mentioned, adaptation is in the context of continuous improvement. It is the ability to adapt based on the results of inspection. So everyone in the organization must ask this question regularly: are we better off than yesterday? So before you jump into the tactical aspects, it's really essential that you understand the foundation and three pillars of Scrum. Now, since we have learned what this Scrum is all about, how it is being built, now let's get into the tactical things and see how it is being performed. So essentially, Scrum has three main roles: product owner, who's the face for the customer; the Scrum Master is one who's interacting with the team and product owner, and Scrum Master is the one who is orchestrating all the Scrum events. Scrum Master is also responsible for coaching, mentoring the team, removing the impediments. And please remember one thing: Scrum Master is not a project manager. Scrum Master is Scrum Master. Because I've seen a lot of companies, they hire for project manager comes Scrum Master. Project manager could be a designation, however, Scrum Master is a role that you play. Then, last but not least, is the team. You can call it a development team or a Scrum team, but just for the sake of understanding, let's call it as a team. So, in the Scrum or in any methods of Agile, you don't see a role which will dictate terms, or you don't see a role which is similar to a traditional project manager who's delegating tasks. Because the Agile project management and the methods under it believes that the teams are self-driven, self-motivated, and they do not need a person to drive them. However, they need a facilitator, they need a coach, they need a mentor who can help to bind all the stakeholders together, and who can be that gel which will connect with all these different elements of the project. And that role is being played by the Scrum Master. And now let's get into the next phase of it. That is user stories, product backlog, and sprint backlog. So all the requirements that comes to the product owner from the customer and other stakeholders, they come in the form of user stories. And these user stories are maintained in something called product backlog. The delivery of the product happens in a short, time boxed manner, which is termed as sprint. So each sprint starts with a sprint planning meeting. In this meeting, the entire meeting is being facilitated by a Scrum Master, and it is attended by the product owner and the team. And you can also invite the other stakeholders, but they are optional. The main intent of the sprint planning meeting is to pick the items from the product backlog which can be delivered in a particular sprint. And the development team can commit to deliver these user stories in a single sprint. And all the items that are picked out from the product backlog, which the development team feels that okay, these can be delivered, they are put in something called sprint backlog. And any new request that comes in, it goes to the product backlog and it will be picked in the next sprint. So essentially, sprint backlog is something which is committed for a particular sprint, and the scope is frozen for that. And then the sprint starts. So ideally, a sprint can be of 1 week, 2 weeks, but in a typical scenario, it anywhere ranges between 3 to 4 weeks. Just to keep a daily traction, there is a daily Scrum meeting that happens. Some people call it a daily stand up as well. It is a 15-minute meeting that happens on a day-to-day basis, which is again headed by the Scrum Master team. Even the product owner can also join that meeting. So in this 15-minute stand-up meeting, there will be three things that will be discussed: what is being done today, what did I do yesterday, and what are the impediments or roadblocks. So the Scrum Masters play an important role in facilitating this meeting, and the team should be well aware of the things that they are going to perform today. And any items apart from the agenda of this daily scrum has to be taken out in a separate meeting, and any issues that arises is taken out as a separate meeting with the team. By the end of fourth week, the team will be able to deliver a potentially releasable product increment or a workable software or a product that can be given as a demonstration to the customer. The customer can use it and the customer can provide a feedback. And that happens in a sprint review. And later, once the sprint is completed, the team can get together and do some kind of a retrospection and see what went wrong, what can be improved, so that they maintain the idea of continuous improvement. And once the sprint retrospective is completed, they can again go back and do a refinement of the product backlog. And the product owner can adjust the product backlog based on the changed priorities that he got from the customer, based on the feedback that he has received from the customer. And then the same cycle continues in a next iteration. So this is a very transparent way of working with the team members. There's a lot of collaboration involved. There is an inspection that will be done by the customer when he sees the demo, and a feedback is given immediately. And the priorities are told to the product owner so that the next set of requirements are being considered in the sprint backlog. So Scrum is widely used for all the software development work now. All the apps, all the websites, they follow this Scrum method. Now let's take a deep dive into another popular technique called Kanban. So Kanban came from the Japanese word which means a signboard. So Kanban essentially means a board that has columns listed as to do, in progress, review, done. These are the typically seen headings in these boards, but you can change it depending on your work. So Kanban can be used for developmental projects as well as it can be used for the operational activities as well. So Kanban goes with the mechanism of pull, because in Kanban there is something called a work in progress limit that is set to at least two columns, that is either for a to do column or in progress column, wherein this WIP limit will determine the number of requests that can be accepted and the number of requests that can be worked. These requests can be in the form of user stories, it can be in the form of tickets, it can be in the form of some kind of deliverable. And the roles are typically an agile coach or a service delivery manager who would ensure that the work gets done, a product owner or a service request manager who will try to get the to do list from the customer, and a squad or a team who eventually does the work and performs. So the goal of this Kanban board is to ensure that the tickets move from to do to done in a short span. These are some of the examples that you see of a Kanban board or a Scrum board which are maintained in a physical form as well as virtual form. Now, since most of the teams are working remotely, a lot of people opt for the virtual boards that are available in tools like Atlas and Jira. Now let us understand what are the benefits of Agile and what is the need of this Agile, right? The first benefit of Agile is the collaboration, because you're collaborating with your team members, even with the customers, and it gives a lot of good synergy when you work in collaboration. The communication. You're frequently communicating with the team, be it a daily stand up or be it a daily huddle. You understand what is being worked upon, and there is a lot of transparency in this communication because none of the team members will have any hidden agenda in that. Of course, since all these topics come from the lean concepts, they have a high focus on the quality of delivery. Since you're performing these activities like a ritual, there is a lot of discipline that you will bring in when it comes to the delivery of a software product or a service. You'll be eliminating a lot of waste. There won't be any unwanted documentation, unwanted meetings that you would have to attend. A lot of time is actually saved. There are no superheroes here. So it's not a one man army or a one man show that's going to run the whole project with by creating that single point of failure if that person leaves. So it the delivery happens as a team. There's always a shorter feedback loop with the customer and all the other stakeholders so that we can identify the roadblocks at a very early stage and ensure that we follow the best risk management practices. Now let's take a look at some of the popular myths around Agile. They say that Agile is undisciplined. Not at all. The rituals in Agile, Scrum, or Kanban will bring a lot of discipline to the table. Agile has no planning. Agile does not have any upfront planning as such, but the planning that will be done at a sprint level during the sprint planning, it is crystal clear. And that plan is something that is achievable, tangible, and it adds a lot of value when you deliver that end result. Agile has no documentation. Agile doesn't necessarily goes with having a lot of documentation, but it has certain documentations that are needed. There is no upfront design or architecture. Since you're working a piece of the entire product, you won't feel the need of having that upfront design and architecture. Well, this can be debatable depending on the kind of project that you're doing. But if you're doing a project which is of a smaller scale, let's say an app, a functionality in an app, or a website, then it doesn't really need a design or an architecture. Agile does not scale. Yeah, until 2010, maybe we were not able to scale the Agile, but now there are a lot of frameworks using which you can have Scrum of Scrum teams. You can scale Agile like less and safe, which are more popular now. Agile is just another fad. So any new concept or a new technology that is coming in will be called as a fad. People called internet as a fad. People called cloud computing as a fad. People called the blockchain technology as a fad, but it's a reality. So anything, especially that is in technology field, which is called a fad, will eventually become a reality one day. Along with the myths, let us also understand some of the facts about Agile. So we'll see where Agile cannot work. When the performing work is either too small or too big. If it's a small task, you don't really have to do Agile. You don't really have to implement in a certain methodology. Yeah. It's just a task and it can be done in an easier way. Or if any work or a project is too big, let's say you're building you're setting up an infrastructure, or you're setting up an airport or building a bridge, you really cannot implement Agile over there because there are few things that has to run in a waterfall way, that has to run in a sequential way. When you have absolute clear requirements, when the customer knows what exactly needs to be done, then that work can be done in a straightforward way. Maybe you can use waterfall methodology. You really don't have to invest your time and change the mindsets of the organization or the team to implement Agile when you have absolute clear requirements. Okay, when you have fixed mindset, you cannot use Agile because you would be resisting the change. If you want Agile to be successful, you have to accept the change, you have to embrace the change, and you have to have an open mindset. Now, let's take a deep dive into the training and certification. Since there are a lot of training and certifications that are available, but it's really essential to pick the right one. So, for your benefit, I have divided the training part and certification part separately. So if you want to get trained in Agile, if you want to understand the nuances of the Agile, the first thing that you want to read is the Agile Manifesto. I will mention the link down below. You can click on it, go have a look at it, read it. Because once you're clear with your fundamentals, you really do not necessarily need a certification to justify it. However, when you come to the certification part, a lot of companies, a lot of recruiters ask for certain certifications. And the certifications in Agile, some of them are very easy. I would like to call them as candy certifications that can be You can get those certifications by attending just 2 days of workshop, and on the end of second day you will have a certification, you'll be certified. However, this is a good thing that you are fast tracking the process of learning, but on a longer run it won't add much value. If you are really interested, if you have spent some time in working in agile environment, you've worked on some of these scrum projects, and you want to invest in a certificate that will bring a lot of value, then I would rank these certificates in terms of their difficulty level, in terms of the higher passing percentage, and in terms of the knowledge that they bring on the table. So in the order of the knowledge, the value add, the actual benefit of the certification, I would recommend to go with the scrum.org certifications. That is PSM 1, 2, 3, PSPO 1, 2, 3, and so on. So the curriculum of scrum.org is coming straight out of Agile Manifesto, and scrum.org has a very high standards when it comes to the scrum certifications. Or if you're taking up any certification in scrum.org, you need to be prepared for 100% or more than 100%. The next tough certifications, or the certification that really brings a lot of value, and it has been quite popular nowadays, and that is SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. So SAFe has an entry level certification that is the leading SAFe. Then it has the SAFe Scrum Master. It has a product management certification, that is POPM, and there are a lot of other certifications under the SAFe umbrella. SAFe as a concept is a holistic concept. It's a huge concept. There are a lot of new things that are being added into that. And just to get an understanding, if you're working in a large Scrum team, if you are scaling Scrum, then SAFe would be a good framework that you can pick up. And if you are in a hurry, if you want to give some interviews, if you want to see some traction in your job profile, if you are at a place where you just understand some of the concepts of Scrum and you want to get certified, then go for Scrum Alliance. The certifications like CSM, CSPO, these are easy certifications. You attend 2-day training, and then there will be an exam which is quite easy, not so heavyweight as scrum.org or SAFe. And on the end of second day or third day, you will be certified Scrum Master or a certified product owner. So this is about the certification and training. So like I mentioned, I would not give more importance to certification, because certification is the only way which will help you to stand out of the crowd if you are applying for a job. But the real knowledge will come when you gain the knowledge from authentic sources like Agile Manifesto, and you actually put that experience into daily practice by working on hands-on projects and getting your fundamentals right. Some terms that are way too different from each other, but I would like to make a point about it. Like, for example, a user story is not a Jira ticket. A Jira ticket could be any service ticket which is being raised from the Atlassian Jira tool. However, it cannot be necessarily a user story. Scrum is not agile. Agile is a broader philosophy or a mindset or a framework under which Scrum is one of the method. Now, a lot of agile advocates and agile evangelists, they have different opinions about it, and most of the people believe that they are not the same. But when you are talking to someone who's already well versed with the agile world, you please ensure that you use the right terms. Now, the framework is not equal to methodology, right? So agile could be a framework. Agile is a mindset, it's a framework, it's a wider umbrella. Scrum could be a method or a methodology, but they are not the same. Remember, mindset is greater than skill set. Agile will only work, or you can thrive in agile if your organization has the agile mindset. And only a scrum master or a product owner, if they are having that agile mindset, then the projects would fail, because this mindset should be that of the entire team. And it doesn't matter if you have all the skill sets in the market, all the certification, but unless and until you do not have the agile mindset, yes, having the skill sets and certifications are of a waste. A mindset always takes a higher value than the skill set. And of course, to thrive in agile, you need to embrace the change, because agile is not for someone with a fixed mindset. Agile is not for someone who doesn't want to change, because agile is change driven. It is driven by the change, it is not driven by a plan. Agile means you're continuously evolving, learning, and improving. The goal of agile is to develop the self-organizing teams. So gone are those days when you had a person who is dictating the terms or who is asking you to do certain things. The teams in agile are self-organized, self-driven, and they work in an automated way. And last but not least, you need to foster the servant leadership. So servant leadership is not just a term, it's a philosophy. But the goal is to develop a leadership which will serve the team, which will serve the organization. So instead of people working to serve the leader, here the leader exists to serve the people. So with this, I would say that before you take up any certification or training, please ensure that you have these points embedded in your brain, and then you can start your journey in the agile project management. That's all for today, guys. I hope you liked my video. If you find the video interesting and if you like the content, please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Do follow me on my social media handles and connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are someone who's looking for one-on-one consultation in career development, or if you're confused to choose what is the right career path for you, you can reach out to me. Until then, bye for now. See you in the next one. Take care and stay safe. This is Sham signing off.